Okay, so
might
we're
want to
talking
interview.
to Craig MacGregor from Landscape Management Magazine, and I heard you at the dinner table at Milwaukee Tools talking about that the average fleet size of your magazine subscribers have 27 trucks.
Correct.
Can you go into that? We're here with Stan Genadek as well. I didn't get you in the picture.
I'm listening intently.
Yeah, we're actually at the hotel right now at the event of the Milwaukee event and just chilling out for a few minutes. So there you go.
It's just based off our annual audit, our verified audit circulation, VAC. Many magazines use VAC or BPA, and this is just going off our annual audit.
Craig, can I ask you a question? What is your circulation?
Our total circulation, print and digital editions, is just over 65,000
Okay.
monthly subscribers.
And now you said some of the other magazines are your competition, and you may have a larger average contractor size than maybe Turf or one of the other ones. What is their circulation? Do you have any idea where they're at?
I do, but not as of 2016. One of the things that Landscape Management does is we perform our audit in March every year, whereas our competition, and best that I know, they do theirs in June. So they all do theirs, like collectively, and we used to as well. But imagine a contractor getting phone calls from 7 different magazines at the exact same time. So the audit, might not be as accurate.
Okay.
So
Rough numbers.
I couldn't tell you rough numbers. I really couldn't.
I mean, back from last year or whenever you knew the last time they were doing it.
To be perfectly fair, I'm not worried about you mentioned earlier.
No, I'm not worried about it either. I'm just trying to get an idea of an industry average, because I know you service the larger contractors, and it'd be good to get a feeling for where some of the other guys that may not service the larger contractors kind of helps the overall mentality of people get an understanding where they fit into the fold.
That's a great question. So I was sitting with, tonight at dinner for this event, I was sitting with one of our competitive magazines. I'm not going to mention her name because she's not here, and it's fair. And somebody asked her a similar question. It may have been you, and she said there's probably 75% crossover between our publication and her publication, and then 25 that will either subscribe to them or to us.
It's totally true, and that's normal.
Yeah.
In marketing.
So that was, I was like, thanks for jumping in, and that's a fair assessment, I think, of where we are versus our competition, our competitive set, I should say. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is service our readers, give them the best content that we possibly can. And you said you don't have a competitor in your market.
I don't. I was telling Craig earlier that I don't. He says, well, you're sitting here, I invited you, Keith. And Craig joked and said, oh, you invited your competition. And I looked at him dead serious. And I said, I don't have anyone for this competition. I feel that once you sit down and you get to know everyone within your industry, they no longer become your competition. They actually become your cooperation. And it's just a complete flipping the switch, where I was actually telling you, Craig, and Keith, you probably are aware of this, where I've sat in my competition's equipment loading their soil into my trucks because it's a benefit to them to get rid of it, and it's a benefit to me to pick it up. But if I had never reached out and initiated the initial conversation and said, look, let's work together. Yeah, you dig basements for this home builder, and yeah, they've asked me to price them out, but you won this one. But now I got a job 3 blocks down the road where I'm going to save you money, and you're going to save me money.
Win-win.
Win.
Win-win. I also learned that too recently. So have you ever bought let's say a pair of Nike shoes? Well, have you ever bought a pair of Adidas shoes? They're a competition. Why are you buying both? Have you ever got information from one author on a subject, but information from another author on a same or similar subject? Because that crossover, you want it both. So for you to promote your competitor's product or promote your competitor competitor and be what's the word, affiliated with them actually is serving your customer even more. It's like moving the free line forward. It's giving to them what you can't give them. So now there's all this reciprocity built up because now your customer likes it that much more, that you are just this huge flow of value. You are now becoming a value source that they're going to come back to you because, man, this guy's giving me all this good information. He's giving me all this good stuff. So I really like the value proposition in that. We're talking about is your competition really your competition? And in some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. Because when you become affiliated with your competition, now you can give value and cross-promote each other, just like Stan here, the Dirt Monkey Man.
So we're talking about turning competition into cooperation.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the key element that we're discussing. We're discussing it with Craig. Craig is from Landscape Management Magazine, and this is we're just at the Milwaukee Symposium after the fact, and it's just a great concept to try to ingrain, because I really want people to understand
what
that.
I found most interesting tonight with the Milwaukee speaker, forgive me, I forget his name, Steve, was when they get feedback, negative, he said, he used the word constructive criticism, they feed off of that.
Yes.
And from the standpoint of being a publication in this market, in our particular market, landscape market, we feed off that. We have our own intuition, but we don't know it all. Our readers know some, our advertisers know some, and we have our own intuition, and we collaborate with all three to create the best content to deliver it to our audience. And if that means delivering the best content for our advertisers and our audience at the same time, it's a fine line and it gets dicey, but we think we're figuring it out. We're not naive enough to think that we know it all. So that's what we've been doing the last few years. We kind of did a whole redesign in landscape management in October 2014 that was all based on research. And then our gut instinct. We bring enough to the table, but we went to our advertisers, we went to our readers, we went to everybody, and we did this whole research project to find out what you guys, the contractors, need.
Yes.
What you need to be successful, what you want. We asked you.
It is real important researching and finding those hot buttons of your customer avatar, digging in, doing surveys and finding out what's their triggers, their mental triggers, what are their fears, what are their anxieties, what motivates them. And when you dig in and you ask those questions, if you want to know how to write your next article or promote your next product or create your next piece of content or whatever that flow is, you literally go directly to the source. People act like it's some big misnomer, they can't figure it out. And all you gotta do is ask and you shall receive, and say, hey, what motivates you?
Right, and it benefits you.
What fires you up?
If I ask you a question, like, how can I help you sell your product, sell your service? And you have insight that I obviously don't from the front lines. Doesn't that make more sense? You know, we live in this world of people who think they know it all, but they don't. They don't know anything because they're not asking the right questions to the right people.
I just finished a book, and when I was before writing the book, during writing the book, and at the end of the book, I was sending out email surveys saying, hey, it's kind of like I want to make sure this is the best possible book, and I want to make sure it covers everything you would like to know. Please tell me, what would you like this book to be about? What would you like to be in the book? Are there any points that I missed? I want to make sure it's the best. And all these people gave me all this feedback, which actually put my ass back to work, and I had to go write 2 more chapters and write addendums and things like that. But now I know that if you use the keywords in the specific language, their native language, then it's going to work. Like if you go up to a chimpanzee with, I don't know, talking in English with cotton candy, he's not going to respond. But if you go up and give him a banana, he's going to respond because you're speaking his native language. Just like, so when you get a bunch of...
boss of mine, to that point, an old boss of mine, and I've been in marketing and advertising for years, and he said you can't walk into a new client and expect him to know your vernacular, to know your language, internal language.
True.
And I remember when he said it, it was like, oh, I'm a dummy. what a mistake I've made so often, because people would look at me like, what does that mean? And then I would be like, well, you know what that means. It means this, X, Y, and Z.
You got to use mirroring.
And right,
Yeah.
exactly. True sales technique, and it's not because they were dumb, but I know my language. I didn't necessarily know his.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily know mine. So I had to put it in terms that, as the guy that was presenting something, that he would understand. And I think as contractors, I think you guys are on the ground level.
Yeah.
And you can speak to your language, and maybe you have terminology within yourselves that you're like, maybe I have to figure out a different way to present that so he'll understand, or she'll understand.
I talk to my YouTube subscribers on my channel. I talk a lot differently than I talk to my customers.
Sure.
Because on the channel I'm ranting, sometimes I'm cussing and things like that. But one mistake I made was talking in big words or trying to sound like I'm educated, and really I was just confusing the person and sounding like a jackass.
When you're talking to your customers, you mean? Or
Both.
when you're talking to your YouTube channel?
Both.
I don't change.
Well, I had to change it. I had to learn.
I just give it to them straight. If they like me, because if you're going to be doing a big project for a customer, you're going to be working at their house for 3 to 5 weeks.
Oh yeah.
They better like you from start to finish, because they're going to know the truth.
Yeah.
Well, right, and we've had some discussions about that, about communication with your clients. Like, they won't necessarily be as angry with hey, listen, we ran into this problem, it's going to be an extra $5,000. If you communicate exactly what it is all about. But if you're like, hey, my quote was a little bit off, it's $5,000 additional. Where did that come from? But we have found that if you communicate through the process, like, hey, yeah, a big difference. It's a big difference.
It's huge. In fact, I actually make it mandatory that my crew leaders spend at least 5 to 10 minutes every day, whether it's in the morning or the evening, communicating with the customer. If they can't meet with the customer face to face, they have to make the effort to make a phone call and talk to that every day. That is one of the few mandatory things that I say is an absolute must, because it's a level of communication that alleviates all of your issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that it's neglect or irresponsibility or somebody trying to rip somebody off at the end of the day every time. I think it's just a job could be so big, and there's so many moving parts, and what gets lost is that communication. And if you lose that communication, then you lose the client. Then you lose the positive feedback or the positive going down the line.
If I could add to that a little bit, one thing I've learned, especially even though I've been in the business 5 years, is over communicating to a client, especially up front in the beginning. Let them really feel you out and be transparent of who you are, what your company's about, how you stand behind your work, what is your mission statement, and so that they feel comfortable at any part in the process. If they want to give you feedback or if there's something they don't agree with, they feel like there's an open door. And then when there is an issue, you fully hear them out and you massage right through it.
But you can't overcompensate, because if you overcompensate and you over-communicate, believe it or not, if you over-communicate, they think you're compensating for lack of, name it, X, lack of Y. If you just explain and explain and explain,
Yeah.
you don't need to. You need to be clearly, succinctly, get to the point, make it easy to understand in relatable terms, and then your customer is going to feel confident that they are in the hands of a professional, and all they want is their project taken off their plate. They don't want too much information and weigh down their shoulders, right?
Yes.
They want all of it off from their shoulders and onto your shoulders. They're going to put all of their worries and problems onto you. You have to communicate just enough that they believe you can do all of that for them. That's the difference.
It's creating trust.
That's perfect. Yeah, yeah.
It's creating trust.
Creating trust.
Truly. I mean, people, when I bought my first house, I got hoodwinked like a lot of people 15 years ago, 13 years ago,
Real
whatever
quick,
it was.
that we ended right there. That was really good. I'm gonna call this video communication and creating trust. There you go. All right.
Perfect.